Are we approaching, as Zygmunt Bauman has claimed, the symbolic end to the era of space? For most of history, says Bauman, power has been organized territorially. But since the attacks of 9/11, that era is over. The attacks put an end to the notion that a territory with secure borders can protect against outside attack. As Bauman puts it, threat and security have become now essentially extraterritorial issues that evade territorial solution. In this post-spatial order, we are all subject to a mutually assured vulnerability, he says, regardless of where we find ourselves on the globe. Bauman's theory effectively captures the angst produced by the expansive and globalized terrain of the War on Terror. But the contradiction in the theory is that it is only thinkable from within a particular space. No one who lives in Iraq, Syria, or the borderlines between Afghanistan and Pakistan would claim that Europeans and North Americans are subject to Bauman's mutually assured vulnerability in the same way as they are. A better way to understand the War on Terror might be to consider it as a conflict that occurs simultaneously everywhere, yet somewhere. There are competing aspects of it, some, such as the importance of global networks of arms and finance, the rise of terror attacks in zones of apparent peace, and cross-border drone warfare, work to globalize the conflict, threatening, at their very limit, to turn the entire globe into a battlefield. Yet, these globalizing processes take place in a situation of extreme inequality in terms of the vulnerability of people. Despite the periodic explosions of violence in metropolitan centers of the West, populations in the war zones themselves are exposed to violence in an extremely asymmetrical way. So how can a territorialized art form, such as performance, respond to a conflict that takes place everywhere yet somewhere? One option has been to organize viral performances that link up different locations at the same time, such as the global readings of Aristophanes' Lysistrata that took place in 59 countries in protest against the American invasion of Iraq in 2003. These viral performances popped up in public spaces around the world, politicizing those spaces as organizers had to argue for the right to host a political event in schools, church basements, mosques, cafes, community centers, parks, and street corners. The model was taken up by activists who staged readings of other anti-war plays afterwards, including Irwin Shaw's 1936 expressionist drama Bury the Dead, in which soldiers killed in action returned to life. In Montreal, actors from the play popped up at the U.S. consulate, playing dead U.S. soldiers angry that they had been killed in a pointless war. Then in 2010, Catherine Freed's play Homegrown was attacked by the Toronto Sun for its allegedly sympathetic portrayal of Canadian terror suspect Sharif Abdel-Halim. Shortly thereafter, the Prime Minister's office denounced the show and cut a major grant for Summerworks, the festival that had hosted the show. Viral readings of the play in 70 cities across the country helped the festival make back the money it had lost, connecting the Toronto-based festival to a circuit of other communities of activists and artists. Another approach to the everywhere and somewhere is to create a spectacle that forms a conceptual link between the local and the global. On a December morning in 2012, students at the University of California, San Diego awoke to evidence that an unmanned aerial vehicle had crash-landed in front of the campus library. A photograph of the crashed drone aircraft was released the same day, along with a statement by the UC Center for Drone Policy and Ethics announcing an investigation into the crash and a town hall meeting. While drone crashes are rare and another malfunction is extremely unlikely, read the statement, we would like to take this opportunity to teach basic drone safety techniques that can be practiced on a daily basis to keep ourselves and others safe. The crash, as you may have guessed, never took place. It was a hoax orchestrated by artists Ricardo Domingo, Ian Allan Paul, and Jane Stevens. Recalling the language of Cold War and Area 51 cover-ups, this work popped up on the campus, much to the surprise of students and faculty. It was a durational piece that unfolded over the course of a week, as official statements, documents, photographs, and other forms of evidence were sent out to local media outlets and sometimes taken at face value. This pop-up fiction writes on the space it encounters, temporarily changing what we understand the space to mean. The conflation of the space of California with Afghanistan effectively comments on the everywhere and somewhere of the War on Terror. It does so by connecting the seemingly innocuous aerospace research centers that make up the campus, where research on Predator drones actually does take place, to a global circuit of weapons manufacturing that begins here and ends in bombing raids at the Afghan-Pakistan border. The somewhere of the faraway war zone is evoked in the way that the performative fiction superimposes the violence of the war zone onto the campus, asking Californians to consider what it would be like to live on the other side of the drones they may be complicit in producing, to know that the sky is filled with weapons, that invisible cameras may be watching their movements, and that death may rain down from 5,000 feet at any given time. The hoax and the viral performance each take place in the everywhere and somewhere of the War on Terror. They pop up in public space, mobilizing surprise, uncertainty, and ambiguity to invite viewers to reconsider what that space means and how it is connected to spaces of conflict. They are necessarily ephemeral. The viral performance connects distant places momentarily. The hoax arrives by surprise and disappears when exposed. Its politics consists in the way that it poses the question, what if the world really were like this?